8 heroes swore allegiance, marching to the battlefield. To defend their homeland, they returned in loneliness, awakened by a cry from the past, rushing to aid brothers, slaying the enemy. Hello everyone, I am Khitan, a new YouTuber. Where Winds Meet is filled with touching, regretful, and stirring hidden stories. The first episode of this Once Upon in Where Winds Meet series starts with the novice mentor, known as Where Winds Meet's Sentinel Puppeteer. Let's witness that era intertwined with chivalrous passion and tender love, and uncover the unassuming yet deeply moving tales. If you enjoy it, please give a like, comment and subscribe. Your support means the world. Without further ado, let's dive into the story. At the end of the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms period, a rural family on the outskirts of Khitan raised 2 boys. The elder brother Qinghe was eloquent but thin and frail, plagued by constant illness. The younger brother, Qinghe, grew tall, strong, and mighty, yet he was born mute, unable to speak a word. The family lived in poverty, and in such turbulent times, they could only afford to raise 1 child. After painful deliberation, the couple took their eldest son and left the village, heading deep into the mountains. Curious about where his father and brother were going, the younger son quietly followed them into the mountains. To the mother, both boys were the apples of her eye, but if she kept both, neither might survive. Despite her overwhelming reluctance, she could only send them off with tears streaming down her face. Qinghe hated his fragile body for burdening his parents abandoned in the mountains. He feared his days were numbered. Qinghe couldn't fathom why their parents were so cruel as to leave his elder brother behind. They had shared steamed buns and endured beatings together since childhood. They simply could not live without each other. It seemed the only one indifferent to this heartbreak was their father. After leaving Qinghe in the mountains and returning home, the couple found that Qinghe was gone too. They sighed, resigned to the harsh fate of having no children to surround them in such chaotic times. Meanwhile, the 2 brothers clung to each other, supporting one another through hardships as they struggled out of the mountains. Though blood bound them as brothers, their bond as strong as steel, they had wandered the jungle since childhood, struggling to find a stable livelihood. They could only take up menial or unrespectable trades. Qinghe, though weak, was clever, lively, and gifted at singing and storytelling. Qinghe, though mute, was robust and skilled in combat. Leveraging their strengths, they became shadow puppeteers. Qinghe handled the vocals and set the mood, while Qinghe tied thin strings to his limbs, embodying the shadow figures wielding swords and spears in sync with his brother's hand movements, putting on a vivid and impressive show. Today, shadow puppetry is a cherished treasure of intangible cultural heritage, respected by all. But in the chaotic 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms, an era of war and even cannibalism, it was little more than a trivial street performance to amuse children after meals. Nevertheless, it allowed them to put food on the table. Life was hard but sweet. The brothers sang and fought as one, earning a living while developing a unique and powerful martial art inspired by their shadow puppetry. Just as Qinghe and Qinghe finally stabilized their lives, a greater calamity struck: the Khitan invasion. In times of war, people were too busy fighting for survival to care ritual pursuits, like watching shadow puppetry. As the shadow puppetry industry downsized to cut costs, Qinghe, mute and unaware of how to curry favor with superiors, was among the first to be laid off from the Qinghe shadow puppet troupe. Homeless and confused once more, the brothers thought of the people of Qinghe. Though poor themselves, the townsfolk had always smiled at their performances and willingly shared their steamed buns. They picked up their large broadswords and unleashed the shadow puppet inspired martial art they had honed day and night, vowing to protect the people with every ounce of their strength. No one knew that the gentle yet vulnerable land and its people reminded them of their mother, who had sent them off with tears in her eyes. And the imperial court, which turned a blind eye to the people's suffering, was just like their father, who had chosen to abandon one son to save the other. As the saying goes, heroes arise in troubled times. Soon, the brothers Qinghe and Qinghe became members of the renowned 8 heroes of Qinghe, celebrated by the townsfolk. 8 strangers united by the desire to protect their land and people from the Khitan burning, killing and looting, stayed behind like moths to a flame, risking their lives to rebuild tunnels and shelter the civilians. After repelling the enemy, the group sat around a bonfire, drinking and sharing their life stories. Perhaps drunk on cheap wine or consumed by anger at their past hardships, Qinghe, usually mild-mannered, down to large sips of wine and shouted angrily, "I refuse to accept this. When we go to southern Yanyan, we must make a name for ourselves, to show all those who humiliated us." Shengwu nodded in unwavering agreement, mirroring his brother's passion and taking to large sips of wine as well. An old man with white hair and beard asked with a smile, stroking his beloved little donkey beside him. Chen Wen, already drunk after several more sips, thought faintly, "So what if I die? Then we'll go east. Go west. Go farther. Wherever the road leads us." His words trailed off as he drifted into a deep sleep.
Went up on the mountain, there I made my stand. Went up on the mountain, there I made my...
Though the 8 heroes of Qinghe were all brave and wise warriors, the war was brutal and they were vastly outnumbered. As the heroes fought fiercely to defend Qinghe against the Khitans, swords clashing, shadows darkening the sky, the 2 brothers were suddenly hit and thrown by war horses. The other heroes were scattered by the enemy army. Just as the brothers prepared to rush to their aid, they watched in despair as their comrades were surrounded and cruelly slain by the enemy's blades. Fortunately, the people they cherished were finally safe, and Qinghe survived the national disaster. The rivers and mountains stood firm once more, but 10 years of wind and frost passed. Those who had fought alongside the brothers were gone, forgotten by the world. Even the shadow puppet shows near Qinghe only sang the praises of General Wang King of the Northern Vow. Only the 2 brothers carried on the legacy of the 8 heroes of Qinghe, often practicing shadow puppetry by the Northern Vow River, silently eulogizing their ambition to defend the country and commemorating the hardships they endured and the souls they lost. Those who immerse themselves in the play must bear its sorrows. Plagued by post-traumatic stress disorder, the brothers were finally awakened by a fledgling young hero from Qinghe using a supporting martial art move. Only then did they realize that everything was already in the past. 10 years lost in a muddled dream, unable to tell north from south or east from west, recounting battlefield tales behind the curtain. No more drum beats or music under the lamp. After some time, the brothers, homeless, without comrades, and never truly having a place to call their own, wandered to the afterlife shore of the Bodhi Sea of Misery. Passing through thick fog, they arrived at a floating island covered in spider lilies. They set up their shadow puppets once more and began to perform, and the past surged in their hearts, awakening their inner demons. "We can't go on, elder brother. If only my sword had been faster," Shengwu thought. "If only I had reacted more quickly," Shengwen thought. The old days of drinking and chatting with their brothers around the bonfire were vivid in their minds, like sparks flickering in the dark night, bright and distinct yet fleeting. The only constant was their pure hearted resolve to serve the country and the people, to uphold chivalry and make their mark on the world, even if it meant acting like Qinghe, filling the sea with pebbles. When players defeat Puppeteer Curtain Call, they can obtain a cosmetic item called Banner of Resolve. Its description reads, "A black flag imitated by children in Khitan. Once, a little boy boasted that he would become a great general and recover the 16 prefectures. Shengwen and Shengwu were just like that little boy, campaigning against enemies in chaotic illusions, defending their homeland with innocent hearts. Homeless by birth, they had only each other as their strongest support, carving out a path and protecting a piece of land. They willingly sacrificed their souls, engraving the deeds of the 8 heroes of Qinghe into their bones, turning their flesh and blood into banners, silently inheriting and upholding that loyal and chivalrous spirit. Who are the Northern Vow and General Wang King, and where winds meet? What happened to the other survivors of the 8 heroes of Qinghe? If this episode reaches 1,000 likes, we'll update the next installment. Every inch of mountains and rivers we defend with our lives within 3 days.